United Airlines tried to recover from the fallout of its massive PR disaster, unveiling new policies in the wake of a viral video showing a passenger dragged off their plane as blood streams from his nose. The new changes at United: crew members can no longer displace passengers already seated on the plane. Crews are required to check in at least an hour before a flight leaves, and crews not checked in within that hour will have to book the next available flight. For more on this, I'm joined by Gene Marks, a Washington Post columnist and owner of the Marks Group consulting firm. Gene, let's get right to it. Is this a case of rules that should have already been in place? And will United Airlines ever be able to get this debacle behind them? And do we know the effect on their stocks yet?
Yeah, boy, that's a lot of questions, Arthel, but we can answer them. First of all, I guess you and I now know what happens, right, when we're waiting to get on a flight and somebody becomes, they're overbooked and they say to the passengers, we need people to volunteer, and not enough people volunteer. I always wonder, like, what happens to those people? So now you and I know that, right? You get involuntarily dragged off the plane. When that happens, it is a public relations nightmare for United Airlines, and we've seen this over the past week. So you just said some of the steps they're taking. Delta Airlines is now taking their own steps. They're now offering up to $10,000 in reimbursement for passengers to come off of a flight if they were booked. So United's going to recover from this. I mean, we're going to see, some residual damage that we'll probably, be reading about online. But for the most part, they're going to recover. What we don't want to see, Arthel, is we don't want to see this going, and neither does the airline industry, does not want to see this going to Congress. They certainly don't want to see any hearings about this or legislation coming out of this. The airline industry is going to try and deal with this on their own, and I believe that they will.
So the Delta, they're offering up to $10,000 to passengers. How do they decide who gets how much, and how long can Delta afford to do this?
Well, when you look at the numbers, right, there were 660 million passengers in the U.S. last year, Arthel. 40,000 of them were involuntarily bumped off of flights, and only a few of those thousands were Delta passengers. Even though you feel sympathy for those 40,000 people, right, that's still a very, very small amount, a minute amount of people that are involuntarily bumped off of flights. Up until now, most airlines, like Delta and United, they were only offering reimbursement of up to $800 or $1,000 for people to leave flights. And for the most part, that policy was working. Well, we've now seen that it's not working for everybody. So, I mean, look at it this way. Do you think that the CEO of United would have happily paid $10,000 to that doctor that was involuntarily dragged off to avoid all of this public relations nightmares? The airline industry can afford to absorb that, and they will. This is a thing that was a long time in coming. And the best thing about the airline industry when it comes to overbooking is that they're learning from these kinds of viral mistakes. When it comes down to it, if you and I get booked off of a flight, it's everybody has their price, right? So if we're sitting on a flight and we need to leave the flight and somebody has to be taken involuntarily off, before it ever has to get to that point, most people have a price of what they would take cash compensation to give up their ticket. What United found is that that price was way too low.
So do you think, Gene, other airlines will follow suit and follow Delta's new model now and offer a lot more money?
I do. Yeah, you know what I think the real opportunity is, Arthel, is I think, we're going to see airlines putting more of this up for an auction. I've heard that discussed among clients that I know that are in the airline industry. When you think about it, most of us have mobile apps, for airlines. Think about this: if a flight is overbooked, why not let the passengers have the opportunity to bid on how much they would be willing to take to leave a flight, rather than the airline saying we're only giving up to a certain amount of money? If you leave it to the marketplace to decide, I think the marketplace will decide. So airlines have been talking about this, and the industry has been thinking of testing out this process. An auction-based system and driven through mobile apps on the airlines, I think that's something you should keep an eye on, because I think that'll happen. This incident with United, surely driving that for sure.
Hey, so what about those of us who fly often? Will we be the ones that end up paying for this in the form of hidden fees or just outright higher ticket costs?
You know, it's a good question because I fly often as well, and I think to myself, boy, you know, will this have an impact on our ticket prices? I don't think so, and here's the reason why. I mean, airlines themselves need to build up reserves. The industry has been growing. They need to overbook flights so that they can be as flexible as they can when passengers cancel flights, weather gets in the way, crews need to be moved around. So, you know, like I said earlier, a small amount of flyers are really affected by this. Only 40,000 out of 660 million flyers. So bumping up the price of what people will take, I don't think that's going to have a significant difference on the airline industry. And to get to your question, no, I don't think that's going to increase the price of our tickets. Which is good news.
And you say that the airlines, you think that the airline industry can work this out without congressional involvement. I have a feeling they're going to hear from Congress, though. We will see.
There's going to be some hearings on this. There's going to be some hearings on this for sure. But I think Congress, Arthel, they've got a few other things to be worried about right now than just this one incident. So hopefully
it was a bad incident, though. Really bad.
It
Gene
was
Marks,
bad.
It was ridiculous.
It was bad.
Okay, Gene Marks, got to go. Thank you.
Thanks, Arthel. Take care.
See you. Take care.